The first thing she felt was the weight of silence pressing against her chest, not the quiet of peace, but the kind that follows years of being unseen, the kind that settles deep in the bones and whispers truths no one else will say aloud. Mara Hale stood in the narrow kitchen of her childhood home, gripping a broom worn down to splinters, her knuckles white as if the wood might vanish. If she let go, she had been sweeping the same spot for far too long. The floorboards creaked beneath her bare feet, old wood complaining with every shift of weight. Outside, the prairie wind scraped against the house like a restless animal, rattling the shutters and carrying the smell of dust and dry grass through the cracks. It had been this way all her life. Wind, want, waiting, girl. Her father's voice cracked through the quiet like a whip, rough, sour with whiskey. Mara straightened instantly. Yes, Pa. She stepped into the front room, smoothing the faded fabric of her dress out of habit. Orrin Hale sat slouched in his chair, boots still on, a half-empty bottle resting near his heel. His eyes were red, his beard untrimmed, his temper already half spent. "The man'll be here before sundown," he said. "You best make yourself look decent." Her stomach tightened. "You said he wasn't sure." He snorted. "He's sure enough. Needs a wife. Needs someone to keep his place in order." He finally looked at her, eyes cold and assessing. "And I need my debts cleared." The words struck like a slap. Mara swallowed. "You told me last time I told you what you needed to hear," he snapped. "Don't push your luck, girl." She said nothing more. There was no use. She had learned long ago that silence hurt less than arguing. She turned away, retreating to the small room that had never truly been hers. The mirror above the wash basin caught her reflection-thin face, sun-worn skin, eyes too old for 23. Years. Not ugly, but not the sort of beauty men sang about. Not the kind that saved girls from hard lives. Her mother had once been beautiful. Everyone said so, before the sickness. Before her father's drinking, before love turned into obligation. Mara touched the glass where her reflection stared back, searching for something hope, maybe? Or a reason this all had to be her. Outside, wagon wheels creaked down the road. The sound made her chest tighten. By afternoon, the man arrived. Harlan Boone was older than her father. Thick around the middle, his clothes clean but worn thin by work and sweat. His eyes lingered on her the way men looked at livestock, measuring worth without shame. She poured coffee with steady hands while the men talked over her, as if she weren't there. "She's strong," her father said. "Works hard, won't talk back." Harlan grunted. "Looks frail." "She ain't." Mara kept her gaze on the cup. She could feel his eyes tracing her shape, weighing her value like a sack of grain. Can she bear children? Her fingers stilled. Yes, her father answered quickly. Her ma had 5. Harlan nodded, satisfied. "I'll think on it." When he left, her father rounded on her. "You embarrassed me," he snapped, standing there like a fence post. "You told me to be quiet." "Quiet don't mean useless." She said nothing. She never did. That night, she lay on her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling while the wind rattled the shutters. She thought of her mother's soft voice, long gone. Of the way love had once existed in this house before it soured into something sharp and bitter. She thought of the girls she'd seen in town, girls who were chosen, courted, wanted. Girls whose fathers looked at them with pride instead of calculation. Her chest ached with the weight of something she could not name. By morning, her decision was made. She packed before dawn. Just a small bundle. A change of clothes, her mother's worn Bible, a crust of bread. She moved quietly, her heart pounding so hard she feared it might wake the house. When she stepped outside, The sky was pale and endless. The road stretched westward, thin and uncertain, but it was a road all the same. She didn't look back. By midday, the prairie swallowed her whole. Her feet blistered, her throat burned, but she kept walking. The sun climbed high, then higher, till her vision blurred and her thoughts turned slow. She might have kept going until she dropped, if not for the wagons. They crested the hill ahead of her like a mirage canvas tops. Oxen, people moving with purpose. A wagon train. She nearly collapsed with relief. A man with a weathered face and kind eyes approached first. "You lost, miss." She swallowed. "I'm looking for work. I can cook, clean." So, he studied her, then nodded toward a woman unloading supplies. "Talk to her. We can always use another set of hands." That was how she joined them. That was how her old life ended, and how something far more dangerous began. The first night with the wagon train. Mara slept beneath the open sky with dust in her hair and fear pressed tight against her ribs. The ground was hard, the air sharp with the scent of sage and animal sweat. She lay wrapped in a borrowed blanket, listening to the low murmur of voices and the restless shifting of oxen. It should have felt frightening. Instead, it felt quiet. Not peaceful, just empty of shouting, empty of orders, empty of hands that took more than they gave. At dawn, she woke to the sound of movement. Men hitching teams, women stoking fires, children chasing one another through the grass, laughing as if the world were not full of sharp edges. A woman with silver-streaked hair knelt beside her. "You're awake early." Mara sat up, brushing dust from her skirt. "I didn't mean to sleep so late." The woman smiled. "You didn't." Name's Ruth Calder. "You can help me with breakfast if you like." Mara nodded, grateful for something to do. Her hands knew work. They always had. As the day unfolded, she learned the rhythm of the wagon train. The careful packing, the slow march west. The way everyone depended on everyone else. No one barked orders. No one struck her for being slow. When she fumbled, someone showed her how to do better. It felt unreal. She caught herself waiting for anger that never came. By the second evening, the men began to gather near the edge of camp, checking rifles and scanning the horizon. Whispers passed from mouth to mouth. "Apache country," someone murmured. That word carried weight. Feared Mara felt it settle in her chest like a stone. Later, as the sun bled into the earth, she saw him for the first time. He stood apart from the others, dark hair tied back, eyes sharp as flint. He moved with a quiet certainty, every step deliberate. Not one of the wagon's men. Not one of them at all. She didn't know how she knew, she just did. An Apache. Their eyes met across the firelight. His gaze held no anger, no threat. Just watchfulness, calculation, and something else she couldn't name. Then he turned away and vanished into the dusk. Her heart pounded long after he was gone. That night, she dreamed of running, not in fear, but in freedom. Wind tearing past her, her feet sure on the ground. She woke with her breath caught in her throat. The following days blurred into dust and labor. The wagon train moved steadily west, but tension crept into every mile. Riders were seen on distant ridges. The men whispered at night, voices low and urgent. Mara kept working, cooking, mending. Watching, she noticed things others missed: the way the birds fell silent before dusk, the way the wind shifted before nightfall, the way the ground itself seemed to hold its breath. On the fourth evening, the attack came. It began with a shout, then chaos. Horses screamed, men yelled. The crack of rifles split the air. Women grabbed children and ran for the wagons. Mara froze for half a heartbeat, then moved. She pulled a crying child beneath a wagon, pressed herself over him as shots rang out. Dirt sprayed her face. Someone screamed her name. The world fractured into noise and smoke. Through the chaos, she saw him again, the man from the ridge. He moved like shadow and purpose, his presence both terrifying and controlled. He disarmed one of the wagon guards with a single strike, then turned eyes locking with hers across the chaos. For a moment, everything slowed. He did not raise his weapon. He looked at her, then he turned away, cutting down another man who rushed toward her from behind. Her breath caught in her throat. The fight ended as suddenly as it began. The attackers melted back into the land, leaving the camp shaken and bleeding. When the dust settled, bodies lay still. The survivors gathered, shaking, whispering prayers. Mara's hands trembled as she helped tend the wounded. Blood stained her sleeves. Her heart thundered. That night, the air felt heavier than before. She did not sleep. At dawn, the decision was made. The wagon master announced they would turn back. Fearing another attack, murmurs rippled through the campfire. Anger, relief, Mara felt only dread as they prepared to move. She felt eyes on her again. She turned and there he was. Standing at the edge of the camp, he did not raise a weapon. He raised a hand. The gesture was slow, careful, almost respectful. Her breath caught. Before she could stop herself, she stepped forward. Gasps rose behind her. Mara. Someone whispered urgently. She didn't look back. He spoke then, his voice low, accented, but steady. Come. The word carried no threat, only invitation. Her heart thundered in her ears. Every instinct screamed danger. Every lesson she had ever learned told her to run the other way. But something, appalled her, answered instead. She took one step forward, then another. The world seemed to hold its breath. Behind her, someone shouted her name. Ahead of her, the man extended his hand. And for the first time in her life, Mara stepped toward the unknown, not because she was forced to, but because she chose to. The moment her fingers touched his, the world narrowed to that single point of contact. His skin was warm, steady, not rough the way she expected, but firm with strength earned through survival. The noise of the camp shout's cries, the stamping of frightened animals faded until all she could hear was her own breath and the low murmur of his voice. Come, he said again, softer this time. She did. The moment her hand slipped into his, something inside her loosened. Fear did not vanish, but it changed shape. It became sharp, clear, purposeful. She followed as he led her away from the wagons, not running, but moving with intent, weaving through shadow and smoke as if he knew every inch of ground beneath his feet. Behind them, voices shouted. Someone called her name. She did not look back. They reached the edge of the camp, then the dark spill of open land beyond. Only when they were far enough that the shouts faded did he slow. He glanced back once, eyes scanning the dark, then released her hand. You are safe, he said quietly. Her chest rose and fell too fast. Why? She asked. Why help me? He studied her face as if searching for an answer written there. Because you were not meant to be there, he said simply. The words struck deeper than any accusation ever had. They moved through the night, keeping low, stopping often to listen. She followed without question. The land seemed to open for him, paths appearing where she would have seen only darkness. When her strength faltered, he slowed without comment. When she stumbled, he steadied her without touching her for longer than necessary. At last, they reached a narrow ravine, hidden by scrub and stone. A small fire burned low within, sheltered by rock. She realized then they were not alone. An older woman looked up as they approached, her face lined but strong. Her dark eyes measured Mara with quiet intensity. She came, the woman said. She did, he replied. The woman nodded once. Sit. You're safe here. Safe. The word felt strange in her mouth. She sat, legs trembling, while the man knelt and fed the fire. The woman brought her water. Mara drank deeply, her hands shaking. What is your name? The woman asked. Mara, she answered. Asha, the woman said. And his, she nodded toward the man. Is Tarek. Mara looked at him again, really looked. His face was lined by sun and wind, but his eyes were calm, steady, not cruel. Not curious in the way men often were. Simply aware. You are not afraid of me, she said quietly. I was, he admitted, but not now. Something in his honesty eased the tightness in her chest. They did not speak much after that. Exhaustion claimed her quickly. She slept. Curled near the fire, the earth firm beneath her, the night sky open above, no walls, no locks. Just the steady presence of others breathing nearby. When she awoke, dawn had painted the sky pale gold. The camp was already stirring. She sat up. Unsure of her place, unsure of what was expected of her. Asha handed her a bowl of warm mash. Eat. Mara obeyed, surprised by how hungry she was. The day unfolded in quiet motion. She followed when motioned to follow, helped when shown how. No one barked orders. No one watched her with suspicion. She was not ignored, but she was not coddled either. It felt balanced as the sun climbed. She noticed Tarek watching her from a distance, not in possession. In assessment, late in the afternoon, he approached. You can stay, he said simply. Her heart skipped. Just like that, he considered. Nothing is ever just like that. But yes, if you choose, what if I change my mind? Then you go, he said. No chains. The words struck her harder than any blow. No chains. She thought of her father's house, of the man who had claimed her like property, of the wagon master who saw her as labor, of the way she had always been told where to stand, how to behave, what she was worth. And here stood a man offering her choice without demand. I don't know your ways, she said. You will learn, he replied, or you will not. Both are allowed. Her breath hitched. Why are you doing this? He hesitated, then answered simply. Because I saw you choose. That night, she sat near the fire as the camp settled. Children laughed softly nearby. Someone hummed an unfamiliar tune. She felt something loosen inside her chest, a knot she had carried so long. She had forgotten it was there. She had chosen. Later, as the fire burned low, Tarek returned and sat beside her. Close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. You were not afraid today, he said. I was, she replied. I just didn't let it decide for me. He nodded, understanding. For a long moment, they sat in silence, watching sparks drift into the dark. Then he spoke again. My people believe every person carries a song. Some are born knowing theirs. Others must search for it. She glanced at him. And, you think I'm searching? Yes, she considered that. What if I never find it? He met her gaze. Then we listened longer. Something warm and unfamiliar settled in her chest. Not love, not yet, but trust. Possibility. That night, when she lay beneath the open sky, she did not feel the ache of emptiness she had carried for so long. The stars seemed closer, less cold. For the first time in her life, she did not feel like she was waiting to be chosen. She had already chosen, and that made all the difference. Dawn came soft and pale, washing the valley in gold. The camp stirred quietly, as if the earth itself did not wish to break the fragile peace that had settled there overnight. Smoke curled from low fires. Horses shifted and snorted. Somewhere, a child laughed. Mara woke with the sound of it, the simple, ordinary sound of life continuing. For a moment she lay still, listening. No shouting, No orders barked in anger. No fear gripping her chest the way it once had. Only the quiet breath of a world waking slowly. She sat up and wrapped her shawl tighter around her shoulders. Across the camp, Tarek knelt beside the fire, sharpening a blade. The early light caught in his dark hair. He looked up, sensing her gaze, and inclined his head in greeting. Nothing more. No claim. No demand. It was strange how deeply that simple respect settled inside her. She rose and joined the others as the camp prepared for the day. There were fires to tend, water to fetch, supplies to pack. She worked beside the women, her hands steady, her movements sure. No one watched her with suspicion now. No one corrected her every breath. She belonged because she worked, because she cared, because she chose to stay. Mid-morning, a scout returned at a run. The news spread quickly, low and urgent. Soldiers were moving again. Not close, not yet, but near enough to matter. The camp responded without panic. Tents were struck. Packs were loaded. Children gathered close to their mothers. The rhythm of survival took over. Tarek came to her as she rolled a blanket. "We move before noon," he said. "North, through the ravine." She nodded. "I can keep up. I know." They moved as one body when the time came, slipping into the land like water finding its course. The trail was rough, the climb steep. Dust stung her eyes and sweat burned her skin, but she did not slow. She would not be the reason anyone faltered. By mid-afternoon, they reached higher ground. The land spread wide behind them, dry, endless, unforgiving. Somewhere out there were men who would never stop looking for what they believed was theirs. Mara paused at the ridge and looked back. She thought of the girl. She had been the one who scrubbed floors and waited for permission to exist. The girl who believed love had to be earned through obedience and pain. That girl felt very far away. "Are you afraid?" Tarek asked quietly. She considered the question honestly. "Yes," she said. "But not of this." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. They made camp as dusk settled. The air cooled quickly, carrying the scent of sage and stone. A small fire was lit, its glow warm against the coming night. As darkness fell, the camp gathered close. Food was shared. Stories murmured. Someone laughed softly. The sound felt fragile and precious. Later, when the others drifted to sleep, Tarek sat beside her. "Feeding the fire, you know," he said. "Where I come from, choosing someone is not only about love. It is about walking the same path. Facing the same dangers." She met his eyes. "I'm not afraid of danger. I know. But I'm afraid of being taken again," she admitted. "Of losing myself?" He nodded. "Then don't give yourself away. Walk beside me, not behind." The words settled deep inside her. She thought of all the times her life had been decided for her. All the moments she had been moved like an object, traded, spoken for. And now here she was, being asked to choose. She reached for his hand. "I will walk with you," she said, "as long as you walk with me." His fingers closed around hers, firm and warm. Always. They sat in silence after that, the fire crackling softly between them. The stars overhead burned bright and endless. Later, when sleep finally came, it came gently. The days that followed were hard. Travel was slow. Food grew scarce. The land tested them at every turn, but something had shifted within her. Longer shrank from hardship. She met it head-on, steady and sure. The others saw it too. She learned the trails, learned to read the sky and the wind, learned how to move without sound, how to listen for what wasn't being said. The people around her began to rely on her not because she was fragile, but because she was strong. One evening, as they rested beside a shallow stream, an elder woman approached her. She carried a small bundle wrapped in worn cloth. "You have walked our path with respect," the woman said. "You have learned our ways and kept your own heart." She placed the bundle in Mara's hands. Inside lay a simple cord of leather, marked with a single bead of pale blue stone. "For belonging," the woman said. "For remembering who you are." Mara's throat tightened. She bowed her head in. "Thanks," unable to speak. That night she sat beside Tarek, turning the small token in her fingers. "I used to think belonging meant being claimed," she said quietly. "Now I know it means being seen." He smiled faintly. "And choosing to stay." She leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. The firelight danced around them, warm and steady above them. The stars wheeled in silence. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be loss. There would be danger. But there would also be choice and dignity and a life shaped by her own hands. For the first time, she did not feel like a burden or a possession or a shadow. She felt whole, and as the night deepened, with the land breathing quietly around them, Mara understood something at last. She had not been rescued. She had become